Here's the problem posed to us. In garden pea plants, such as those Mendel used, A. With regard to stem length, when pure-breeding tall plants and pure-breeding dwarf plants are crossed, all of the offspring are tall. B. With regard to flower color, when pure-breeding violet plants and pure-breeding white plants are crossed, all of the offspring are violet. Then the question is, what would be the expected genotype and phenotype frequencies of the F1 generation if a garden pea plant heterozygous for both traits was made to undergo self-fertilization? How do we solve such a problem? Well, we can start with this four-step process. This is the high view of it, the overview. We'll get down into more details in a minute. So we have 4 steps. To solve the problem, the 4 above sections will be completed sequentially, since each section provides information that is required in order to complete the next section in the series. So the first step, we're going to start here. The first step is we start by determining the cross for the parent generation. That is, the genotypes of both parents. From there, with both parents' genotypes in hand, we move into step 2. We have the information needed to create and fill out the 4x4 Punnett Square for the dihybrid cross. Then we move on to step 3. Using the information contained in the completed Punnett Square, we next determine the expected F1 genotype frequencies. And finally, we move on to step 4. With the information concerning the expected F1 genotype frequencies, we finally can determine the expected F1 phenotype frequencies. This will be a pattern that we'll follow, and we'll stop as we complete each step and get a high-level view of where we are in the process. So let us apply this 4-step process to the word problem given at the outset. 1. We start by determining the cross for the parent generation, that is, the genotypes of both parents. There's the complete word problem. Next, we'll break it down into parts to see what information we can obtain from it. Okay, in garden pea plants such as those Mendel used, A. With regard to stem length, when pure-breeding tall plants and pure-breeding dwarf plants are crossed, all of the offspring are tall. That tells us that tall is dominant over recessive. For our symbols, we can use either T or D. We're going to use T. Okay, so T, capital T, will stand for tall. Little t, lowercase t, will stand for dwarf, the recessive trait. Okay, in B we were told, with regard to flower color, when pure-breeding violet plants and pure-breeding white plants are crossed, all of the offspring are violet. That tells us that violet flower color is dominant over white flower color. So again, we could choose V or W for a symbol. We'll just choose V randomly. So the dominant is always uppercase. So uppercase V stands for violet, and lowercase v stands for the recessive, white. Now we're asked, what would be the expected genotype and phenotype frequencies of the F1 generation if a garden pea plant heterozygous for both traits was made to undergo self-fertilization? Okay, well, if this is pea plant is heterozygous for stem length, then it would be big T, little t. If it's heterozygous for flower color, it would be big V, little v. So if it were heterozygous for both characters, it would be big T, big V, little v. So from the word problem, from the wording of the problem itself, we obtained several key facts, including the parental genotypes, which is what we were after. Okay, we have the fact that tall is dominant over dwarf, and we'll use capital T for tall, little t for dwarf. Violet is dominant over white, so you use capital V for violet, little v for white. And then the parents, which are heterozygous for both characters, are big T, big V, little v. So we have their genotypes. We can move on to complete phase 1, which is fill in the parent generation cross using the 2 parental genotypes just determined. And there we are. Parent generation cross is big T, big V, little v, crossed with big T, big V, little v. I've used different colors for the alleles for the different genes just to show that they are different genes. The T's are 2 alleles for the tall dwarf, for the height character, which can represent either tall or dwarf. Then the V's are the gene for the flower color, which can be either, the alleles can be either capital V or little v.